Hi everyone, this is Dr. G. Amarendra Rao, Principal VBIT Hyderabad. In today's session, we'll discuss about one-dimensional steady-state heat conduction in hollow spheres. Hollow spheres are commonly used in nuclear engineering applications due to high surface to volume ratio, which implies that in a given space we can accommodate more surface area, therefore more heat transfer rate. And for a sphere to be one-dimensional, the thickness of the sphere has to be very small compared with its outer diameter. Then for a sphere to have only steady state heat transfer, we will wait for so much of time that we are going to have steady state conditions established in the sphere. Now under these two conditions, we would be considering a hollow sphere of inner radius R1, outer radius R2, made up of a material of thermal conductivity K. In order to prompt heat transfer along R direction, we assume that on the inner surface the temperature is T1 and on the outer surface the temperature is T2. Mathematically speaking, at R is equal to R1, we have T is equal to T1. At R is equal to R2, we have T is equal to T2. Now it is intended to get expressions for the radial heat transfer rate Q and the temperature profile TR. And we can achieve these targets by way of the Fourier law or governing differential equation. Both of them, the approach could be different, but we are going to get the same result. And if you look at the Fourier law for 1D steady state heat conduction in spheres, Fourier law states that Q is equal to minus Ka dt by dr. And the surface area of the sphere at any radius is given by 4 pi r square. And when we separate the variables and perform definite integration from R1 to R2 and T1 to T2, upon simplification we are going to get Q as 4 pi K by 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2 times T1 minus T2. To make this equation more meaningful, we multiply and divide with R1 R2 to have Q as 4 pi K R1 R2 by R2 minus R1 times T1 minus T2, where R1 and R2 are the inner and outer radii, K the thermal conductivity, T1 and T2 are the inner and outer surface temperatures. And by following a slightly different procedure, we can establish the temperature variation inside the sphere as T1 minus T by T1 minus T2 is equal to 1 by R1 minus 1 by R upon 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. And we may note that R is more than R1 and less than R2, and T is less than T1 and more than T2, which means that as R is increased, T is going to be decreased. The reason why we have a negative sign in the Fourier law. Now at R is equal to R1, we are going to have inner surface temperature. At R is equal to R2, we are going to have outer surface temperature. And at any value of R between R1 and R2, we are going to get the temperature between T1 and T2. And obviously this equation is a rectangular hyperbola as shown over here, which means that the temperature profile along the radius of a sphere will be hyperbolic. Then we can as well use the governing differential equation to achieve the same objectives. And we can show that the governing differential equation in a sphere under 1D steady state conditions is given by d by dr r square dt by dr is equal to 0. And this equation has to be integrated 2 times to obtain the expressions for the temperature distribution and the heat transfer rate respectively using the same boundary conditions. Then the governing differential equation can be obtained from the basics, or it can be obtained by simplifying the general heat conduction equation in spherical coordinate system. And for those who are aspiring for engineering services, you may get a question like derive the governing differential equation for temperature distribution along the radial direction of a sphere. It's a matter of a couple of minutes before you arrive at this equation. We consider an elemental strip inside a sphere of some thickness dr at any radius r. Then we assume that del qr is the rate of heat conduction into the element and del QR plus dr is the rate of heat conduction away from the element. Then for the elemental strip to be in steady state condition, energy coming in should be equal to energy going out. That's del QR should be equal to del QR plus dr. This we call it as the energy balance equation. Then del QR can be obtained using the Fourier law as minus k 4 pi r square dt by dr, and del QR plus dr can be expanded into Taylor series as del QR plus d by dr del QR dr. One can supplement both these equations in the energy balance, and one can simplify it to arrive at the governing differential equation, which is already established. Then one can obtain GDE from the general heat conduction equation in spherical coordinate system. Before we make a note of the general heat conduction equation, we realize that in spherical coordinate system, temperature would be a function of r, theta, phi and tau, where r is the radial coordinate, theta is the angular coordinate, phi is also the angular coordinate as established here. And one has to discriminate theta and phi. Theta is the angle measured in a vertical plane with respect to a horizontal plane, which means that it is the vertical angle which will be available in the front. And phi is also the angular coordinate, but phi is the angle measured in a horizontal plane with respect to a vertical plane, which means that this angle indicates the width of the point which will be available from the top view. This we call it as the azimuth. And of course tau represents the time. And by following a standard procedure, we are going to show that 1 by r square del by del r square del t by del r is the radial conduction, plus 1 by r square sin theta del by del theta sin theta del t by del theta. This is the component accounting for theta conduction, plus 1 by r square sin square theta del square t by del phi square is the component which takes care of phi conduction, plus q dot by k, where q dot by k accounts for internal heat generation. All of them together should be equal to 1 by alpha del t by del tau. That's the unstudied term. In one of the future sessions, we are going to derive this equation from the basics. You may note that this is the most general heat conduction equation in spherical coordinate system for an isotropic and homogeneous material. When I say isotropic and homogeneous material, its properties will be uniform everywhere. The only property which we talk about is thermal conductivity, which is going to be same in all the directions. And when we consider 1D steady state conditions without heat generation, all the terms get lost except the first term. Since everywhere there is 0, and 1 by r square will go that side, it gets lost. Since temperature is a function of only r, one can replace the partial derivative del by del r by d by dr. It is the required governing differential equation for a sphere. Then the analysis can be conveniently carried out using electrical analogy, wherein the given sphere will be replaced by an analog circuit diagram. Inside we have a temperature of T1 high potential, outside surface we have a temperature of T2 low potential, and as a result there is a thermal potential of delta T, that is T1 minus T2, across which heat transfer is taking place at a rate of Q, which is hampered by RTH. And by comparing these two equations, we realize that thermal resistance is R2 minus R1, that is sphere thickness, by 4 pi k R1 R2 degree centigrade per watt, where RTH is thermal resistance in degree centigrade per watt, and delta T is thermal potential responsible for the heat transfer rate. And this sphere equation is slightly complex, and to make it simple, we introduce the concept of geometric mean area, AGM, wherein the given sphere will be replaced by an analog plane wall of area AGM, thickness LR, and temperatures are same, K is same and Q is same. And by a very simple mathematical manipulation, we can show that AGM is simply square root of A1 A2 and LR is simply the sphere thickness R2 minus R1. These steps are quite self-explanatory, and at the same time one can have the concept of geometric mean radius RGM. Here we replace the given sphere of different radii by a mathematical sphere having a mean radius of RGM in a way such that heat transfer rate remains the same. And by a simple logic we can show that the geometric mean radius is square root of R1 R2, that is geometric mean of R1 and R2. And we can show that RGM will lie between R1 and R2. So in some analysis we find that RGM and AGM concepts will be more convenient. Now let's try to address some numericals in which these equations will be implemented. First we'll try to talk about a very general problem, that is in a copper sphere. For copper, K is 386 of inner diameter 50 mm and outer diameter 65 mm. Inner and outer surface temperatures are 90 and 25 degrees centigrade respectively. Then determine heat transfer rate in kilowatts, thermal resistance in Kelvin per watt, the temperature at some radius 30 mm, radius where the temperature would be 50 degrees centigrade, then the RGM and AGM. First of all, we jot down the data, that is K is 386, then your R1 is 25 mm, divide by 1000, 0.025 meters, R2 is 32.5 mm, divide by 1000, 0.0325. Please remember, R1 is half of 50 mm, inner radius, R2 is half of 65 mm, 32.5, have them in meters. T1 is 90, T2 is 25, then their difference is 65, that we call it as thermal potential. And if we substitute this data in the heat transfer equation, you are going to get heat transfer rate as 34,156.44 watts divided by 1000, 34.156 kilowatts. And we also know that Q is equal to delta T by RTH. Now Q is available, delta T is available. We calculate RTH as delta T by Q, which is going to be 1.903 into 10 power minus 3 degrees centigrade per watt. Then to get temperature at some radius 30 mm divided by 1000, 0.03 meters, use the temperature profile. T1 minus T by T1 minus T2 is equal to 1 by R1 minus 1 by R by 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Here you got everything except T. And if you substitute the given data here, you are going to get temperature at R is equal to 30 mm as slightly over 43 degrees centigrade. Now same equation can be used to identify the radial position where temperature is 50 degrees centigrade. Everything is same. You calculate R, which is going to be 0.02913 meters, multiplied by 1000, 29.13 mm. Since R1 and R2 are available, your RGM will be square root of R1 R2, which is going to be 28.504 millimeters. And having found RGM, it becomes easy to calculate AGM using the equation 4 pi RGM square. Since you want to have AGM in meters square, take RGM in meters, that's 0.0285. It is going to be 0.0102 meters square. So this is a very general problem involving all the calculations. The second problem, we are going to make some limited calculations, like a cast iron sphere, or cast iron K is 54.2 of inner diameter 90 mm, conducts 12.6 kilowatts of heat across a thermal potential of 65 degrees centigrade. Find the thickness of the sphere in millimeters. Also find its mean radius in millimeters. If you note down the data, K is 54.2, R1 is 45 mm by 1000, 0.045 meters, and Q is 12.6 kilowatt into 1000, 12,600 watts, delta T is 65. Now we know the standard equation, Q is equal to 4 pi K, 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2 delta T. We have everything except R2. And if we substitute the given data here, R2 comes out to be 0.05345 meters, multiplied by 1053.45 millimeters. The thickness is simply R2 minus R1, 53.45 minus 45. It is going to be 8.45 millimeters. Having found R2, R1 is available, RGM is square root of R1 R2, is going to be square root of 45 into 53.45. It's going to be 49.04 millimeters. Then the third and last problem, again very interesting. A hollow sphere of 60 mm inner diameter and 12 mm thickness conducts 30 kilowatts of heat across a thermal potential of 58 degrees centigrade. Determine thermal conductivity of the sphere material. And based on the thermal conductivity value, identify the material from the following alternatives. A. Mild steel, B. Cast iron, C. Stainless steel, D. Copper. Then if you jot down the data, R1 is half of 60, 30 mm, 0.03 meters. R2, R1 plus thickness, 30 plus 12, 42 mm, 0.042 meters. Delta T 58 degrees centigrade. Q is 30 kilowatts into 1000, 30,000 watts. Then in this equation, if you substitute the data, you got everything except K, and K happens to be 392 watts per meter Kelvin. Therefore, the likelihood material is going to be copper. So these are some of the problems of very elementary in nature, and one can look for some advanced problems based on these equations. So with this, we'll conclude this session. In the next session, we'll talk some more aspects of heat transfer. Have a nice time ahead of you.